TVS News at 5, it's Thursday, March 10th. You're with me, Douglas Elliott, and let's begin with our top story. The call for more seats in Dewan Rakyat by Sarawak and Sabah members of parliament is a pursuit to restore power balance in the August House. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Parliament and Law, Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar said there is a disproportionate number of seats allocated to the two states after Singapore left the Federation of Malaysia in 1965.
He said when Malaysia Agreement 1963 was first signed in 1963, seat allocations were distributed in such a way that Singapore was allocated 15 seats, Sabah 16 seats, and Sarawak 24 seats. The figure represents 35% of the total parliamentary seats at the time.
So when Singapore came out in 1965, the 15 seat in Singapore was not being distributed to Sarawak, but it fully distributed to the peninsula. That caused the reduction substantially, the number of seats held between Sarawak and Sabah as a result of Singapore leaving Malaysia in 1965, which we think that it ought to have been distributed to Sarawak and Sabah in order to maintain the proportion of the Sarawak and Sabah to continue more than one-third of the seat of Parliament Dewan Rakyat in Malaysia.
Due to this, Wan Junaidi said Sarawak and Sabah are now reviewing the allocation of seats and demand that the seats be restituted.
If you look at the present situation, the study to review the allocation of seats for Dewan Rakyat was last done in Malaysia. In 2000, in Sarawak, 2005 was done, and then there's another one in 2015. And during the 2015 study, there was no increase in the number of parliament seats given to Sarawak. Under Article 113, the review must be made not less than 8 years interval.
He disclosed the demand for seats review for Sarawak would be carried out earliest by 2023. However, he noted that the process has to go through several processes.
But it has got to be done by stages. That means Sarawak have to be done first on the 23, provided it must go through the process also.
On Monday, federal lawmakers from Sabah and Sarawak called in unison for an increase in the number of parliamentary seats of both Bornean states in Parliament. Most of the East Malaysian MPs who took part in the debate on the royal address were of the opinion that the restitution of parliamentary seats should be implemented to bring about a balance in the composition of the distribution of seats for the two states.
Sarawak leads with the total number of children aged 5 to 11 who have received their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Statistics showed a 51.9% of the said group being inoculated as of March 9, where 3,890 were administered. The state's vaccination rate is also significantly higher at 55.3% than the national level, which is at 30.4%.
The total cumulative number of children who have received the vaccine in Sarawak stands at 168,901. These data were provided by the Ministry of Health, MOH, via its COVID Now website. Other states recording high vaccination rate when compared to the national rate are Malacca with 42%, Penang 40%, Johor 37.3%, and Klang Valley with 36.2%. Meanwhile, 93.7% of teenagers aged 12 to 17 in Sarawak have received the first dose, while 90.5% have completed their two-dose vaccine regime. The vaccination rate is slightly lower than the national rate from the same age group who have received two doses of the vaccine, which is 91.1%.
Two men were found dead after a three-way collision that took place at Jalan Bau, Batu Kawa earlier today. The deceased were traveling a compact car, whereas drivers and passengers of the other two vehicles suffered only minor injuries.
Sarawak Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department Chief Superintendent Alexan Nagachabu said the victims were identified as Muhammad Saifuddin Muhi, 29, from Kampung Hulu Serian, and Afandi Ni Eng, 37 years old, from Kampung Sungai Tapang. He said the collision occurred when the compact car driven by Saifuddin made an emergency brake, causing their vehicle to be rammed from behind by an MPV before it went awry into the opposite lane, which was then hit by an incoming van. Both victims were pronounced dead on the scene and were transported to the Sarawak General Hospital for postmortem. Occupants from the MPV and van only suffered minor injuries, and the case will be investigated under Section 41 in Bracket 1 of the Road Transport Act 1987.
Two friends who were reported missing on Sunday in a jungle at Jemoreng Matu were found alive and in good health last night. The duo, identified as 30-year-old Muhammad Khail Abdullah and 15-year-old Nazif Kabil Muhaimin, were found by villagers along Jalan Jemoreng Bawang at about 7:45 p.m. Both were brought to the village chief's house and stated that they survived by eating midden as the main source of food for the past 4 days.
According to the Matu District Civil Service Defense Department APM officer, Jumaat Akasas, both individuals lighted a fire pit as a signal when they realized they had lost their way in the woods. They had entered about 2 kilometers into the jungle through the Jemoreng Bawang main road heading towards Jalan Pasing Jemoreng. Both had also heard sounds of chainsaws, the azan being called, and several fireworks explosion, but failed to make their way out. The search and rescue mission has been terminated following the victims' discovery at 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday, March 9.
Back. As Sarawak aims to be a developed state by 2030, one of its moral pillars is the high level of integrity, especially among Sarawak civil servants. To this date, the State Integrity and Ombudsman Unit or Union has produced 100 Certified Integrity Officers or CEIO across various ministries and departments.
Its Deputy Minister Datuk Dr. Juanda Jaya said Sarawak is committed to governing its administration with integrity and free of corruption.
Hasil cetusan idea yang amat berhormat Premier Sarawak juga, kerajaan negeri kini telah berjaya melahirkan seramai 90 orang pegawai integriti bertauliah atau Certified Integrity Officer, termasuk 10 orang selo sedia ada. Kesemua mereka ditempatkan di pelbagai kementerian, jabatan, pentadbiran bahagian, badan-badan berkanun serta beberapa syarikat berkepentingan kerajaan bagi memastikan integriti, ketulusan dan tadbir urus yang baik.
His speech was read by Tebedu Assemblyman Dr. Simon Sinang Bada at the inaugural Jelajah Integrity at Tebedu on Thursday. He added Sarawak is fortunate to have leaders with integrity such as the late Pehin Sri Adnan Satem, who signed the Integrity Pledge. Similar move was followed by current Premier Datuk Patinggi Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg 2 weeks after he took office on 25 January 2017.
A review of the ceiling price for the COVID-19 antigen rapid test kits in the market will be conducted by the government. Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Minister Datuk Sri Alexander Nantalinggi said the government had gazetted the COVID-19 antigen rapid test kit, or RTK, as a controlled item under the Control of Supplies Order 2021 on November 24th last year and was enforced on December 1 to ensure adequate supply in the market.
Kerajaan sentiasa mengambil kira keperluan dan kepentingan pengguna, terutama dari aspek kecukupan bekalan di pasaran serta mendapatkan harga pelitup muka dan kit ujian kendiri pada harga yang tidak membebankan. Sehubungan itu, penguatkuasaan, pemeriksaan dan pemantauan oleh bahagian penguatkuasa KPDNHP sentiasa dilakukan ke atas item berkaitan di setiap peringkat seperti peringkat pengilang, pemborong dan peniaga.
He said this in reply to Cha Ki Chin, Rasah MP, whether the ministry would review and reduce the ceiling prices for face masks and COVID-19 self-test kits, as well as setting ceiling prices for oximeters and thermometers, which are essential items at this time, which Nanta said would be implemented if necessary. In a supplementary question on the government's efforts in controlling the quality of products like face masks and self-test kits in the market, Nanta said the ministry was evaluating the matter to ensure that the quality was of medical standard, and in regards to the COVID-19 self-test kit, the Ministry of Health will continue to work with the Medical Device Authority or MDA to ensure these devices are of quality.
Bukan harga sahaja, kita akan mewatakkan satu nak memastikan kualiti itu sedang diperhalusi sekarang, ya. Kita akan wartakan standardnya nanti, ya. Itu pelitup muka dengan ujian kit ujian COVID-19 yang dikatakan tadi. Memang sebenarnya peralatan kesihatan dan perubatan adalah di bawah bidang kuasa MDA, Medical Device Authority, yang agensi di bawah KKM lah. Jadi KPDNHP akan terus bekerjasama dengan MDA untuk melaksanakan pemantauan secara berterusan berhubung perkara ini.
And that's the quarter-hour update for News at 5. More headlines at TVSTVMY or follow us on our social media accounts. I'm Douglas Elliott. Take care until then.
Anak yang tidak mendapat cukup makanan berkhasiat berisiko